Honda makes lawnmowers, motorcycles, and family sedans. So why does the FAA consider their jet one of the safest and most efficient private aircraft ever certified? The answer starts with a decision made in 1986 that almost nobody inside Honda took seriously. In 1986, a Honda engineer named Michimasa Fujino walked into a meeting and proposed something that made his colleagues uncomfortable. He wanted Honda to build a jet. Not a concept, not a study, an actual FAA-certified passenger-carrying aircraft. At the time, Honda was at the peak of its automotive dominance. The Accord had just become the best-selling car in America. The company had no aerospace division, no runway, no pilots, and no relationship with any aviation authority in the world. Leadership didn't kill the project, but they didn't exactly champion it either. They gave Fujino a small team, a modest budget, and what amounted to a quiet corner of the company to work in. What followed was one of the longest, most expensive, and most unlikely bets in corporate history. 30 years of research before a single paying customer ever sat in the cabin. Most companies operate on 3-year product cycles. Honda was willing to think in generations, and that difference in time horizon is the first reason the HondaJet exists today.
This question is worth pausing on because Honda didn't enter aviation accidentally. Honda's founder, Soichiro Honda, had a documented obsession with flight that dated back to his childhood. He saw aviation as the ultimate engineering challenge, the ultimate place where weight, power, efficiency, and aerodynamics all had to work together perfectly, with zero margin for error. For a company that had built its entire identity around engine precision and mechanical reliability, aviation wasn't a distraction, it was a logical destination. Honda also saw a specific market gap. Light private jets in the late 1980s and 1990s were expensive to buy, expensive to operate, and largely unchanged in their fundamental design. If Honda could bring its manufacturing philosophy, efficiency, reliability, value into that space, the opportunity was enormous. They weren't trying to build the biggest jet, they were trying to build the smartest one.
Now here is where the engineering story gets genuinely interesting. Every commercial and private jet you have ever seen follows the same basic design logic. Engines either hang below the wings or they are mounted at the rear of the fuselage. This is industry standard. It's been industry standard for 60 years. There are textbooks written about why this is correct. Fujino's team challenged it. Through years of computational fluid dynamics testing, essentially simulating airflow digitally before ever building a physical prototype, they discovered something counterintuitive. When you mount the engines above and forward of the wing at a very specific position, the airflow from the engine nacelle and the airflow over the wing actually work together. Instead of creating interference drag, which is what conventional wisdom predicted, they create a smoother, more efficient flow. The result is what Honda calls the over-the-wing engine mount, or OTWEM, and it does 3 things simultaneously that no other configuration achieves. First, it reduces aerodynamic drag, which directly improves fuel efficiency and speed. Second, because the engines are above the wing and not below it, the fuselage can sit lower to the ground. That means easier boarding, no stairs required, and a more accessible aircraft overall. Third, and this is the one passengers notice immediately, the cabin is quieter. Engine noise on conventional jets travels directly through the fuselage. On the HondaJet, the engines are positioned further from the passenger cabin, and the wing itself acts as a partial sound barrier. Honda patented this configuration. No other manufacturer has been able to replicate it commercially. It is the single most important technological differentiator the HondaJet has, and it came from a team with no prior aviation experience, which is exactly why they were willing to question assumptions everyone else had stopped questioning. The airframe innovation is remarkable, but Honda didn't stop there. Most aircraft manufacturers, especially new entrants, do the sensible thing when it comes to engines. They buy them from an established supplier: Rolls-Royce, Pratt & Whitney, Williams International. These companies exist specifically to supply engines to jet manufacturers. Honda did not do the sensible thing. They developed their own engine, the HF-120, in partnership with GE Aviation. Now, GE Aviation agreeing to co-develop an engine with Honda is itself a signal. GE Aviation does not partner with hobbyists. They are one of the most rigorous engineering organizations on Earth, and they looked at what Honda was doing and decided it was worth their name. The HF-120 is a small turbofan engine optimized specifically for the HondaJet's performance profile. It delivers exceptional thrust-to-weight ratio, industry-competitive fuel consumption, and critically, longer maintenance intervals than many rivals in its class. In aviation, maintenance costs are often more significant than purchase price over the lifetime of an aircraft. Every extra hour between required service intervals translates directly into money saved by the operator. Honda understood this. They engineered the HF-120 not just to perform, but to be economical to own over time.
Let's talk specifics, because the HondaJet's numbers is where the revolution becomes undeniable. The HondaJet Elite 2, the current production model, cruises up to 422 knots. That's roughly 485 miles per hour. For context, that makes it one of the fastest aircraft in the light jet category. Its range is approximately 1,437 nautical miles, enough to fly from New York to Miami or London to Madrid nonstop. Fuel burn is where it separates itself most clearly from competitors. It burns significantly less fuel per nautical mile than comparable aircraft like the Cessna Citation CJ3+, while delivering more speed and more cabin space. Operating cost per flight hour is estimated in the range of $1,500 to $2,000, depending on utilization, competitive with turboprops that are considerably slower. And the cabin itself, 4.9 feet of stand-up height, seating for up to 5 passengers plus the pilot, with a dedicated lavatory, outclasses virtually everything else at its price point. That price point, by the way, is approximately $5.25 million, which sounds like a lot until you compare it to mid-size jets that cost 2 to 3 times more and offer only marginally more capability for most missions.
All of this engineering eventually produced a result the market validated loudly. The HondaJet has been the best-selling light jet in its class for multiple consecutive years, beating out Cessna, Embraer, and every other established player in the category. This is not a niche aircraft for aviation enthusiasts. It is the volume leader in one of the most competitive segments of private aviation. Honda Aircraft Company has built a global infrastructure to support this, manufacturing in Greensboro, North Carolina, with authorized service centers across North America, Europe, and Asia-Pacific. The company that had no aviation history in 1986 now has one of the most recognized and respected aircraft brands among owner-pilots and small business operators worldwide. Honda is not standing still. In 2021, they unveiled the HondaJet 2600 concept, a larger, longer-range aircraft designed to push into the mid-size jet category. It would carry more passengers, fly further, and compete directly with aircraft that currently cost significantly more. Beyond that, Honda has signaled interest in hybrid electric propulsion for future aircraft, a natural extension of the technology work they've done in hybrid vehicles for decades. The aviation industry is under significant pressure to reduce emissions, and Honda is positioning itself to be part of that transition, not a casualty of it. The 30-year bet that started in a small research lab is now a platform for the next 30 years. So here is the real lesson of the HondaJet. It is not just a story about a good airplane. It is a story about what happens when a company refuses to accept that an industry's assumptions are permanent. Every design choice the HondaJet makes, engines on top of the wing, custom-built power plant, lower fuselage, quieter cabin,
came from a team that had no legacy investment in doing things the old way. They had no habits to protect, no previous designs to be loyal to, no industry relationships that required them to stay conventional. That is an underrated advantage, and it is why a company better known for lawnmowers and motorcycles now builds the best-selling private jet in its class. The question worth asking now, is this a one-time anomaly? Or is it a preview of what happens when more non-traditional players decide that aviation is ready to be disrupted? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and if you want to go deeper on where private aviation is heading next, the next video is right there.